Jimmy Carter was not good at those things. And certainly, whatever you say about Romney, he's no Reagan in terms of charisma or historic appeal. But I think that there are similarities. I think economy and there's no dreadful hostage crisis emblemizing the whole thing either. I think the challenge of your convention this time, and you didn't get to it till the very end. In fact, you didn't quite get to it. Is that somebody said the other night at a session I was at that people think that Romney has the skill set to fix the problem. They're not sure he's interested in the people that he wants to help. And on the other hand, Obama is very interested in the people he wants to help, but may not have the skill set to help them. So you got to put it together. You got to show some humanity on this guy's part. Is he going to be the guy looking out for you? And I think that's something you have the opportunity to do this week. And I think that if he comes off as a human being, he doesn't have to be comic or something he's not, or a real showman, which he's not. But if he comes off as a good square, he'll be all right. I see he is a square. But if he's a good square.
Republicans have usually had problems in this area, Chris. Which candidate cares more about people like you?
Yeah,
we have a bigger gap, I think, this year when you look at the Republicans versus the Democrats.
But we've seen, and I think President Obama has a little bit of a problem, is that I think people are starting to believe that he might not be real anymore, and that the brand of Barack Obama.
So you're focusing on what you want to focus on, which is attacking Obama.
The comments that you've made numerous times, that the brand of Barack Obama of 2008 isn't the Barack Obama of 2012.
Well, let's talk about your candidates.
I mean,
it's his convention for a second.
And so let me.
Why don't we talk about
part of a convention when you're in a challenging spot is to tell the American people who you are, what makes you tick, and this is our opportunity this week to launch that campaign.
And Willie,
if he can do it, and I think it's like your guy's like the Orchid Man in the commercials. He's this good-looking guy.
Well,
he says, call me up. I'll be right over.
I'm more than willing
to fix your problem.
Listen, I'm more than
Orchid
willing.
Man, and I think your guy's the Orchid Man. And the question is he going to come over when you call?
Yeah. What does the Orchid Man do?
He's an exterminator. I think that was Tom DeLay.
Willie, guys.
So Willie, something fascinating has been going on for the past couple of weeks. And you've heard Mitt Romney talking about how Barack Obama is running an angry campaign, and he's dividing a country. A lot of people in the media are getting it wrong by they're saying, oh, this is about race. This is about race. Now, America's already elected an African American as president. This is about saying that brand, that hope and change brand in 08, and we heard the chairman say this morning, it's not the same 4 years later. This is not a hope and change guy. This is a divisive, angry guy.
Well, it can't be, Tom, a marketing campaign anymore. It can't be about these sort of themes of hope and change. He's got a record to run on. He's got 3.5 years that he has to defend, and he has to make the case that I know it's not gotten better as quickly as maybe you would have liked it to get better, but it is getting better by a little bit, and I need 4 more years to finish the job.
It's everybody's reaching for a metaphor constantly, but in this country and at the turn of the century, 2000, bought itself a very expensive automobile, and it thought it would really get us to wherever we needed to go, however we wanted to get there. Now, 12 years later, the question is, do we take it in just for a little tune-up, or do we completely overhaul it? And what the Republicans are suggesting is that it's time for an overhaul. It's time to change the equation and the compact between the people and the federal government and what it can do and how it does it, as opposed to President Obama, who says, look, we can fine-tune this car and keep it going down the road that will carry all Americans to the destination, which has always been an essential part of American politics, the American dream. That's kind of a tortured metaphor, but I think that that's kind of exactly where it is. And by the way, I want to make one other observation. A lot of this campaign will be about the haves and the have-nots. Half the people sitting here today have socks on. The other half do not.
Exactly.
So that's the have and have-nots.
Florida. Who wears socks in Florida?
You never wear socks.
Florida in summer.
Tom, I think you hit on something as far as the American dream. I mean, just think about how far we've come on messaging from the Barack Obama of 08 to 2012. Will is right that Barack Obama's plan now, he can't talk about the economy, going to tear down Mitt Romney, but this is what I think the problem he's got. I think he's got a problem with the American dream, and I will just tell you, my parents, my dad was a union electrician.
What do you mean by that? He's got a problem with the American dream.
Well, here's what I mean. My dad was a union electrician. When we drove around Kenosha, Wisconsin, he didn't point to the beautiful house in the corner and say, look at these lousy people over here. What he said, and what every Republican and Democratic parent says to their kids, is they point to that house and they say, listen up, pal, if you go to school and you work hard, you're going to be in that house. And Mom and Dad, we hope it's even bigger.
But a lot of Americans don't believe in that American.
And
Well,
actually
that's
feel
the
that
problem.
your party is the party that really killed that dream.
And the problem is that the president is taking exactly what you're saying, that glass half full view of America. He's taking that view and he is selling that view to America, and he's tearing down Mitt Romney in order to win an election. And that's exactly what's going on.
Chris, we always talk, Chris, about how optimism wins.
Yeah, I think so.
From FDR to Reagan.
It's true.
And one of the things that is so, I don't want to say disturbing or troubling, but it's just sad. I don't see either one of these candidates talking about this is what I'm going to do in the next 4 years. Tom talked about big government versus small government. You look at, unfortunately, hopefully the plans will get more specific. I think what we have is big government versus even bigger government. I don't see either side saying, this is where Reagan said it, FDR said it, Kennedy said it.
Yeah.
This is where we're going 4 years from now.
Well, look, in the end, we'll have 3 national debates, presidential debates, and an hour and a half each. And I think we'll have a big audience for them.
I can't wait.
And I think that the candidate who can get beyond the past and even the present to the future will win.
Who's talking about the future?
I don't hear it yet from either guy. And I think the problem with the Republicans is they have a challenge, which is they want to cut the size of government. And that's a very positive general message.
Right,
It's
general.
when you get specific, it's always a problem. And that's why nobody wants to lay down.
And what's the president's problem
I think he has a
moving
challenge.
forward to say
I
this
think
is
he has
where
to
we're
talk
going?
about how
Hard
he's
times.
going to continue what he's been doing. And I think it's a harder challenge. I think it is, because these numbers don't look good. But the fact is, this election is probably going to be decided by 3 things. The jobless numbers, as it progresses right through the last October number, we're going to get on a Friday right before an election. That's going to have a real power.
Yeah.
And your people in and out officially and the super PACs will probably use whatever advertising time they've slated to really play those numbers up if they're bad. If they're good, Obama will try to do it. Also, the performances. If Romney has a moment in the debates where he cuts through, he's not opaque, he's not distant, cuts through and becomes a good guy, I think the super PAC money will explode in dramatizing that. We've never had this combination of super PAC money, unlimited money really at the end, and a lot of economic news at the end, and a brand new personality presenting himself at the end. Right. There's so much going to go on the last couple of weeks of this election, with Romney sort of really out there for the first time. A little bit this week, but for the first time, people are getting a good look at him, like they did at Reagan in '80 in the debates. And then the economic news is going to be really important at the end. And then put those 2 together with the big super PAC spending. You're going to have a lot of explosive activity the last couple of days of this election, and therefore you can't really predict it now.
And by the way, Mika, we've talked about it before on this show. If you're running a lot of ads, just generally about Barack Obama did this, Mitt Romney did that, Americans don't connect. But if you have that moment in a debate, like Chris is saying, new stuff, people will stop to watch those 30-second ads.
So let's put the question to Reince, because you certainly come here locked and loaded, looking for ways to criticize this president. I agree, it's a tough sell after 3 years to resell, to repackage.
You're being like Haley
change.
now. It's sad that the Democrats never attacked.
I'd like
Mitt.
to know when we're going to know what it is Mitt Romney is actually selling to us.
Well, first
because
of all,
he hasn't been specific, and I don't want to hear about President Obama. I want to hear about Mitt Romney in this answer.
I'll tell you. First of all, I think he's been extraordinarily specific. Number 1, he said that he would start cutting immediately GDP to spending from 25 cents on the dollar to run the federal government down to 20 cents on the dollar to run the federal government. That's a cut in the size of the federal government, number 1. Number 2, he would, across the board on all incomes, a 20% tax cut on personal incomes across the board. Small businesses from 35% down to 25%. And what more specific can he get than picking Paul Ryan as his vice president and saying, we're on the same page here. We want to fundamentally change the debt course.
So is Paul Ryan a blueprint for how he thinks in terms of his economic plans and messages?
I think if you look at Wyden Ryan, and if you look at the budgets that have come out from the Republican House, I think what you're seeing is a window into the types of things that we need to do to balance the budget, to ensure that Medicare is safe for people that are 54 and younger. It's the Republicans that that are talking about these specific issues.
Well, is he going to get more specific though as the campaign goes on? Because the Medicare plan is still murky. How you pay for the tax cuts is still murky. You know, because we talked about getting rid of deductions. Are we going to see? And they're talking about balancing the budget maybe by 2040. A lot of us won't be around at 2040.
You'll be around.
God, I hope so. But you never know. So, is he going to get more specific over the next couple of months?
I would say that campaigns always get more specific as you get closer to November, but this sort of false narrative that he hasn't been specific is just not true.
False narrative.
Come on.
So
Barack Obama was his specifics of 2008.
So what's he doing on Medicare?
On Medicare, if you're 55 or over, first of all, there's one thing that we can all agree on. Everybody. We know if we do nothing with Medicare, it's going to go broke. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? We have decided that if you're 55 years or over, everything that we're talking about, guaranteed affordability, the plan that all members of Congress has, you don't need to listen to another word of it. But if you're 54 or younger, what are we going to do to save it? And what we want to try to put together is a plan that every member of Congress has that guarantees affordability, that allows members to choose a Medicare plan if they want to, or choose a plan that insurance companies that they compete for.
Here, though, but Mr. Chairman, his 30-second ad.
I understand.
His 30-second ad on Medicare is attacking Barack Obama for cutting Medicare.
Right.
It reminds me a lot of what Bill Clinton did in 1995.
Sure, and what we've talked about mainly comes out of the Clinton Commission of the late 1990s. I mean, what we're talking about right now comes out of that plan. And it's the president that stole $700 billion out of Medicare, $415 billion. It's true, $415 billion on payments to hospitals and nursing homes, $120 billion to Medicare Advantage out of that program.
Let me help him. Can I
It's
help
true.
Mika wants to.
Do you want to help?
I got help. I got a lifeline for you.
What's that?
I don't need a lifeline.
How are you going to get rid of Todd Aiken? That's not helpful.
Keep telling them to get out of the race and I will tell you, I believe that sometimes you have to put the things you believe in, like liberty and freedom, ahead of yourself. He has an opportunity still to get out.
So get out,
and
right?
I believe he should get out.
I'm a one-way ticket to Tahiti.
Out of here.
Chairman, let me ask you, and I want to get Tom's take on this too, which is a question about the electoral map. The Washington Post poll this morning, that's all well and good. It shows a tied race, but you have to claw back so many swing states that President Obama won 4 years ago. So if you concede Michigan and Pennsylvania, where do you see the other weaknesses for the president? Where are you going to make up that ground?
Well, we have this 3-2-1 strategy that I'm sure you know about, which is Indiana, Virginia, North Carolina. The 2 is Florida and Ohio, and then we need one of about 8 states that Bush won in 2004, that Barack Obama won in 2008. And the 8 states there's 6 states plus Michigan and Wisconsin. I think we're getting close to the place where Wisconsin's going to be very good for us. And if we can take those 10 electoral votes and put it in our back pocket, then we've got a lot of options, either Colorado or Iowa. But we have to solidify Florida, Ohio, and Virginia first. And then if we can move Wisconsin into our back pocket, I think that we're going to be very competitive. I think we've got a great opportunity here.
Right now, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the tough state this year is Ohio for Republicans. I say tougher than usual, Tom.
Yeah, I think this year it's very much in play. John Kasich, the governor, is not wildly enthusiastic about the top of your ticket. I don't think that's reasonably well known in the state of Ohio. There's a fair amount of separation.
I don't know if that's true, but okay, Tom.
I said wildly enthusiastic. And he ran into a tough patch out there when he tried to cut the budget. Things are coming back a little bit in Ohio. Democrats think that they've got a shot at it. So it's hard to know how Ohio is going to play out. But my question to you is, Thursday night, does Governor Romney speak to the American people about who he is personally, or does he give a policy speech?
Yeah, well, I haven't seen his speech, but I have certainly seen enough about generally where this speech is going, and I think it's a speech that's going to be able to accurately portray the Mitt Romney story to the American people, and I think that's important. And I think once this week passes, people are going to see the Mitt Romney launch that will help save this country and really put someone who can fix the problems facing this country into the White House.
Chris, you're a speechwriter. You were a speechwriter for Jimmy Carter. Obviously, Mitt Romney has some challenges in introducing himself to America. He's seen as at times stiff, a lot like John Kerry was seen in 2004 before his convention. What do you do?
Well, these are accurate perceptions, by the way, the voters have of these candidates. They've been watching them all for years, and these are realities. But I do think the great opportunity of a convention speech. I was in New Orleans in '88, where George Bush Sr., with the help of Peggy Noonan, I think, gave an amazingly empathetic speech where you first time in your life said, you know, I like this guy George Bush a lot because he recognized his own weaknesses. He said, I'm not very articulate. I'm not a great charismatic guy like Reagan, he was saying, but you know, I'm a real patriot. And that was all true.
Read my lips.
Right.
Well, that was in there too. I don't think that was well advised, but the stuff about himself personally really broke through for the first time. Of course, he went into that convention something like 17 points behind. And I know there's a lot of negativity in that campaign, the Willie Horton stuff. But I think if he comes off as a mensch, as a person, and he hasn't done that yet. If I were writing this speech, that's what I would do.
I think the real issue for him is not to look into the camera and say, I'm the Orkin man. Call me, and I'll be there.
Well, by the way, your guy, I have to call you on this, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You've been suggesting that somehow Obama's been running a negative campaign, and your guy's been running a positive campaign. That's not accurate. In fact, if they both stopped all the negative, I'm not sure who would win. But they've both been negative. That cheap shot about, I don't have a problem with my birth certificate, was awful. It is an embarrassment to your party to play that card. This stuff about getting rid of the work requirement for health, for welfare is dishonest. Everyone's pointed out it's dishonest, and you are playing that little ethnic card there. You can play your games and giggle about it, but the fact is your side is playing that card. When you start talking about work requirements, you know what game you're playing, and everybody knows what game you're playing. It's a race card. And this thing about birth, if your name's Romney, you were well born, you went to prep school, brag about it. And this guy has an African name, and he's got to live with it. Look who's going further in your life. Just a minute. Who was born on third base?
Wait.
Okay, this is absurdity. Joe, making fun of the guy's birth certificate issue when it was never a real issue, except from the right wing.
You think Mitt Romney's playing the race card?
When he said,
I'm asking, do you think he's playing the race card?
There's no doubt he did with his birth certificate.
No doubt.
No doubt. Why would he bring it up? Why would he say I have no problem with my birth certificate? What's that supposed to say?
Because he's an awkward joker.
Because he misfired badly on the joke.
Why would he do it?
Well, I'm just asking you. Do you think that Mitt Romney is playing the race card?
Oh, now and yeah.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah, and I think this work requirement fits right into it.
That's the race card too, huh?
Of course it is. Welfare, food stamps.
Well, I mean, I'm happy.
Chris,
absolutely.
I'm
and
happy.
you can chuckle about
now let him respond,
Mr. Chairman, because you have to flag this issue.
No.
The fact is, you know what's going on.
Okay,
No.
let
You
him
have to let
answer.
him respond.
Well, you got your monologue in, so
it's
congratulations. You're loaded up. You got it out.
Well, you
so
from the
good for
beginning
you.
this morning began the negativity on Obama.
The fact of the matter is that he's from Michigan. He was born in Michigan.
Yeah.
He's making the point that I was born in Michigan. And you know what? We've gotten to a place in politics that any moment of levity is totally frowned upon by guys like you, just so that you can, push your brand. You know what? Good for you. It's a moment of levity. Everybody gets it. Barack Obama came out at the correspondents' dinner with his own joke, as you remember,
what's the
a couple
joke in the
years
fact
ago,
he has
playing
a
the
birth
Hulk
certificate? I
Hogan
don't get
song,
it.
I'm a Real American. Every person, myself, starting in February of last year, as soon as I became chairman of the RNC, Mitt Romney continuously has said, this president was born in this country. It's a non-starter. It's a dumb issue. It's a distraction. Forget about it.
It just seems funny that the first joke he's ever told in his life was about Obama's birth certificate. It's just a funny choice.
Listen, I think that I disagree with Chris on this. I think it was a demonstration of his awkward sense of humor. But I do think, in fairness, that all during the Republican debates and the primaries, that there was a lot of stuff aimed at the president that was not refuted by leaders of the party. I
refuted it every single time. I bet you 20 times on TV.
I'm not talking about the birthing thing as much as I am about he's a Muslim, he's a socialist, he's not American. John Sununu had to apologize for saying he doesn't know what it's like to be an American. That was a pretty tough attack. Now, I think it comes the other way, by the way, from the Democrats toward the Republicans as well. And I think that's what's made the country fed up with American politics, and it's a challenge for both parties.
But I think Obama's policies have created a sense that for whatever reason, he's looking to guidance as far as health care is concerned, as far as our spending is concerned, as far as these stimulus packages are concerned. He's looking to Europe for guidance. What? I mean, that's the problem.
We've got a government.
We've got a government.
Insane. You mean the Keynesian fiscal policy is somehow
so far out of control?
You mean the fact that every president we've had has tried to offset the economic cycle with stimulus going the other direction?
Look at the
somehow
spending.
European.
He said he'd get the debt under control. Where are we
what's
at?
this got to do with Europe and this foreignization of the guy?
Well,
You're doing it again now.
So you don't think Obama
he's influenced by foreign influences?
Okay. So you don't think
you're playing
government
that card
taking
again.
over health care?
What's this European thing of yours?
Okay.
Oh, what do you think?
Let's just work on tone. Go ahead, Reince.
What are you up to with this constant
Chris, let him
effort
answer
that he's
the
not
question.
really domestic? Oh, he brought it up.
All right.
Okay.
You don't think that takeover of our healthcare system called Obamacare is a problem for most Americans in this country?
Let me tell you some history, sir. Teddy Roosevelt pushed for that. Franklin Roosevelt pushed for that. Truman pushed for that. Were they all under the influence of Europe?
I'm not going to get into a shouting match with Chris, so you guys can move on.
Because you're losing, that's why.
No, I'm not losing.
All right.
I'm not going to sit here.
Let's about Obama being a foreigner is the thing your party's been pushing. Sununu pushed it. Everybody pushes it in your party.
Okay.
All right.
Birth certificate jokes.
Garbage.
It's your garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, you know, I hear the hurricane. It might bypass us completely and actually go up to New Orleans.
We went from a tropical storm to Hurricane 3 here in about.
Yeah. All right. It's good that maybe we suspend things momentarily. Reince, Prie-Bus, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tom Brokaw, thank you as well. Chris Matthews, thanks, I think. On tomorrow's show, we'll speak with Governor Chris Christie ahead of his keynote address to the RNC. Coming up next, live from Tampa, NBC News political director Chuck Todd. Morning Joe. Back in a moment.